everybody. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Synamon Says. This evening I have some information for you that was brought to my attention earlier today. I actually had thought that I would actually launch our Race Relations in Clayton County in America premiere tonight, but because of something I read in the paper earlier today, I decided to take a different route. And I think that you'll agree with me that it's extremely important that we all be prepared to work with our children here in Clayton County, especially since they've gone through this accreditation debacle. But before I get started on talking about all that, let me just give you a few announcements. Starting in May, we will have our new formats, and I want to tell you about those various formats. Each Friday, the show will start out with 15 minutes of conversation from an elected official or an appointed official here in Clayton County. After that, we'll go into a discussion with you, the online audience. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions of the elected official, to make comments, and even to make suggestions and have interactive exchange with the elected official. Now, that's the first 15 minutes of every show every Friday night, okay? Then we have the first Friday. The first Friday format is called The Bottom Line. And in The Bottom Line, we'll have two guests who will have opposing positions on a particular issue, and we'll engage them in conversation, and you, the online audience, will also have an opportunity to interact with them. The second Friday is The Point. I'm especially proud of The Point because The Point was given its name by my grandson, Detronia, in Detroit. We were talking one day, and he says, "Grandma, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, actually, I'm trying to figure out what to name my show for the second Friday of each month." And so he says, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I have a talk show." "Oh, Grandma, you have a talk show?" So he said, "Sort of like The View." I said, "Well, I guess it could be sort of like The View." He said, "Well, you should name your show The Point." So that's how we get The Point. And The Point is 4 permanent host panelists who engage in conversation with invited guests. Questions, again, will be taken from the audience. I actually have 4 people who I have identified, and I will reveal to you who they are next week. Then the third Friday, we have 20 Women Dialogue. 20 Women Dialogue is a group of women here in Clayton County who've organized to focus on issues that affect women and children in the justice system. And they have some very interesting issues to bring forward to us and some events coming up that I'll talk about later on. And finally, there's the fourth Friday. Clayton County-wide Homeowners Association has that Friday to bring issues to the fore regarding anything that deals with our safety, our community safety, and our property values. So as you can see, we've got a whole lineup starting in May. Next month, we'll have first Friday again, second Friday, third Friday, fourth Friday. Again, let me just tell you what they are. The Bottom Line, make a note, The Point, 20 Women Dialogue, and Clayton County-wide Homeowners Association, bringing forth issues that deal with the taxpayers and the homeowners here in Clayton County. It's an open forum, so you be sure to sign on and join us for those shows as we have them coming up in the next month. Okay. Then there's the brunch. I'm sure some of you have gotten emails about the brunch at Holiday Inn on Sunday. Every Sunday from 12 to 3, the Holiday Inn has a Sunday brunch, and it is fantastic. It only costs $9.95. But I think the best part of that Sunday brunch is that you get a chance to engage in conversation and fellowship with others there. Bring your family, your friend. This is Palm Sunday coming up. Bring everybody out. And don't cook, just bring everyone after church right over to the Holiday Inn on Old Dixie Road in Jonesboro, okay? Something very important, preparing male students for higher education. If we look at the statistics as they relate to young men in higher education, we see that those numbers are quite dismal, particularly where it's concerned with minority students. So what we've done is we've come up with a program called Preparing Male Students for Higher Education. It's actually a pilot that will be presented Saturday, April the 18th. Not exactly sure of the location yet, but we will get back to you with that information. Again, guest speakers will be Attorney J. Tom Morgan, Ignorance is No Defense. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Ignorance is No Defense, Teenager's Guide to Georgia Law. And Mr. John Hobbs, who is a Morehouse College recruiter, who'll be coming not to recruit for Morehouse, which is not a bad thing. We can do that too. But he'll be coming to talk to young men about some of the issues that shape how they think and feel about things. Too many teenagers, both male and female, are getting caught up in the justice system due to ignorance of Georgia law, thus causing loss of opportunities to acquire funding for higher education, voting rights, and gainful employment. Before they even graduate from high school, this happens. So we would like to invite parents and young male students to come to this event on Saturday, April the 18th, 11 to 4, and again, I'll let you know exactly where it's going to be held. So tune in next week and we'll definitely be able to tell you the location. I'm real proud of the fact that Sheriff Kim Kimbrough will be sponsoring the books. The book, Ignorance is No Defense. He's paying for 100 copies to be given out to the students and their parents, and we thank you, Sheriff Kimbrough, for that sponsorship, and we look forward to working with you in terms of making sure that our children do understand what the law is so they don't end up in your jail. Okay. We apologize for not having the information of the location this evening, but again, as I said, we'll get back to you with that. I want to comment on this past Saturday. Clayton County-wide Homeowners Association had an awesome meeting. They focused on property tax assessments, mortgage fraud, and foreclosure prevention. And believe me, there were a lot of great presenters there. The information was very valuable, and people walked away with a sense of calm regarding just what can and cannot be done to save our community from foreclosures. Even people were there for to find out more information about modifications, about refis, all of that. Now, if you missed that, believe me, you missed a lot of valuable information, and you can still get that information by signing on to CynamonSays@AOL.com. Just send a request and we'll forward you information. If you want to make connections with different people who were at that particular workshop and the seminar, then just let me know and I will forward that information to you. But it was a job well done. Deborah Ibarra, Deborah Saunders, members of Clayton County-wide, both made presentations, and it was just a lot of information there. So again, if you need to know more about it, just email me and I'll follow up with you. Oh, we got more guests coming into our audience this evening. I see Tanya Clark and Wayne Clark, and oh, there's little Wayne Clark. All right, welcome everybody. Tonight is all about Synamon. Synamon Says, I'm saying everything, but I might call on you in the audience to join me on a few issues when I bring them up. I'd like to read a statement. This is the statement I tell you that changed my mind about what my content would be for the show this evening. Most of you know that we've been in a lot of trouble when it comes to our accreditation. And we've tried to work it out as a community, working with the school, working with the members of the board. And as a result of this accreditation debacle, the greatest victims of this whole issue has been our children. Our children, they're not comfortable with even saying that they are students in Clayton County public schools. They're not even comfortable with saying that they're from Clayton County, and I think there's something that we need to do about that. But before I get into what I think we need to do, and I want to hear from you as to what we should do, I would like to read this statement. As a student in Clayton County, it is disheartening to see adults labeling everyone in our county as no good. I know students attending and receiving full scholarships to Howard, West Point, Georgia Tech, the Naval Academy, Emory University, University of Georgia, and many other top colleges. I personally will be attending Ohio State. So please do not make remarks when you do not know all that is going on in Clayton County. We are not all thugs. Now, this came from a young person. I had a conversation with another parent who has a child in who's about to graduate, as a matter of fact. A student does magnificently in school, and she was taking him around to visit different universities and colleges to make a decision as to whether he wanted to stay in the state, whether he wanted to go away, just, you know, how you do about making decisions about going to school. Well, when there was a group assembled, and each child would go around and say where they're from and what school they attend. And this particular student was ashamed of the fact that he was from Clayton County. He said that he mentioned the school that he was from, lowered his head, and somebody blurted out, "Oh, that's the school that lost their accreditation." Now, think about it for a moment. What effect this has on our young people? It's our responsibility, because it was adult actions that caused the loss of accreditation, but it's our responsibility to make sure that we do everything necessary to help our students to understand, first of all, that it's not their fault. The loss of accreditation was not their fault. Also, to let them to understand that they should never allow any obstacle to stand in the way of their education, and to feel proud and be very, very clear about what their own personal goals are, and be proud of where they come from. Always be proud. So now we've got a job to do as adults. We've got to fix that mess that was a part of that loss of accreditation. Just the whole time that we went through all the back and forth, will we get our accreditation? Are we going to lose it? We hired this person, fired that person. Just so many different things that have impacted on how the children feel about their schools. So we've got to do something. I think that this child right here who wrote this to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution speaks volumes about the importance that is, well, the importance of us making sure that our children are proud of where they come from, that you know, that we do what's necessary to make sure that their self-esteem is intact, that they're proud of their accomplishments, and that they can walk into any room, any setting, and say who I am and where I'm from. Thinking in terms of what do we need, what should we do? And that's the question I have for you, the audience, tonight. What is it that we should do, or what can we do to make sure that our children can hold their heads up in Clayton County? Right now, it's just very hard for them to do. And as adults, we figure, oh, they'll get over it, it's this, it's that. No. Let's deal with this issue right now and start to embrace our children, to bring them to a point where they, again, feel good about being students in Clayton County public schools. I think the other thing is, well, this is what Synamon says. Have you ever, some of you have and some of you haven't, have you ever been to a school event and found that there were just 12 or 13 people there, and maybe the children, 50 children for a particular event, and then you show up, 12 to 13 parents show up? We have got to start getting involved in our schools. We need, whenever there's an event at that school, it should be packed. Whatever school, it's elementary, junior high, high school, it should always be packed. The PTA should be overflowing. They should be running out of membership cards. We, the community, adults, we have to step up to the plate, and we have to get into those schools and show our children that we do indeed care about their education, and we're there for them. Now, is there anybody who has a question for me? Okay. We have a question from the audience from Mr. Sam Juarez. Sam, what is it you'd like to ask me this evening?
Yes. Hello. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Samuel, and yes, I would like to inquire to this young kid, you know, that he felt uncomfortable. As well, you were saying that's not his guilt. That's not his fault that, you know, they lost accreditation. But also, you know, we, like you were saying, we need a cooperation through the parents and also through the school, you know, through the school system to have to understand it. So my question is, do anybody has working through the school system to work through the cultures? Because a lot of things they have to do into the cultures means that the parents would have not taken a lot of times to teaching our children?
Sam, that's a question that I believe takes a lot of thought, because ever since I was a kid growing up, I'm over 50, and it's always been, it's the parents' fault. Always these young parents' fault, these young people having babies. This is the problem with our students. When what you say is true in terms of culture, we're not educated about the various cultures in our community and in our schools even. And it's important that we do that, because tolerance is so important. Tolerance is something that is necessary in order for us to be able to work effectively and to grow in our environment. Another question from the audience. This is okay. This is my first time out on this, but I'm listening. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Miss Synamon Baldwin.
Good evening.
My question is, in the schools you're talking about, how can we encourage the children? I found that they're always saying that they want parent involvement.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a critical piece when it comes to our children, but you always seem to find opposition when you go to the schools to be involved in your children's education. How do you think we can affect some change there? Because I think that's critical, that no matter what happens in the schools or in the community, it first starts at home. And how can we, have some meeting of the minds with the administration and the parents? And I think that would be a major step in helping the children.
Oh, Patricia, thank you so much for that question and those comments. I would say to you, first of all, you hit it right on the head, parental involvement. Anywhere you go in the country where schools are thriving, it's parental involvement. And that's what we have to push in our communities and in our schools. We've got to make sure that parents feel welcome in the schools. I know what you're talking about, because when I was raising my children, one of my greatest fears was to watch what I said, because I was afraid that the teacher may take it out on my child. So you're absolutely correct. And that's where those of us who do not have children in the school system, who our children have already graduated and gone on, and who are homeowners, it is up to us to come into the school and to help make the path, easy for those parents who don't want to, raise any hassles or deal with any issues directly. It's those of us who don't have the children. We don't have to worry about someone messing with our children. We don't have to worry about our job. Those of us who are retired and we're paying these taxes, $500 million goes to Clayton County. I know you're from a different county, but just all the same, billions of dollars being spent on education, and we as parents are not even in a part of the process. So it's going to be very important for us to use the one vehicle that we have, and I'll say this over and over, the PTA. That's the one vehicle that we have that's intact, that we can use to make sure that we have that parental involvement that's necessary in order for us to effect change in our schools. It's up to us, the retirees, to go and sit down with that principal, go and sit down with that superintendent, express exactly what we feel in terms of how we can better our relationships with the school, how we can better the academic programs, discipline, major issue. It would make a big difference if we see our parents in the school system, in the schools daily, on a daily basis, interacting with the administration, the children, the staff. Those are the kinds of things that we need to do. I hope I answered your question. Okay. We've just got to empower our children. We've got to empower them. Again, their self-esteem, their egos, their pride, all of that has been damaged as a result of the fiasco with the accreditation issue. So I think that if we just come together and identify some time, this is the big thing right here, identify time. Let's be realistic about our time And let's say to our young people that we are here for you, that we do have the time, that we'll come together, and hey, let's listen to them. We have young people in the audience this evening. I know I couldn't possibly get Wayne to come up here and say something, but that's okay, because eventually he will. But the point is, the young people, they're not even used to us talking to them. You know, we're always talking at them and talking about them. We don't talk with them. We don't engage in conversations with our young people. And I think that's very, very important that we start the dialogue with our children. It's, you know, it's just incumbent upon us as adults to make sure that we do what's necessary to make sure that our children have the best opportunities to succeed in life. And I see we have another question from the audience. Thank you. Okay, coming right up, we have Chief Tunde here this evening with us. And Chief, what is it you'd like to share with us this evening?
Yes, thank you very much. I think your program is very, very interesting and it's very informative and educative. What I notice about the children is that the system actually corrupts the students. I want to take note of when you look at the children going to school today, they dress the way they like. I was in a school just to have a kind of induction, cultural education, and I saw a daughter, a lady that comes to the school. She dressed as if she's going to a party, and the other guy dressed and put the pants, and the teacher could not even correct them, simply because freedom of everything. When we have too much freedom for our children, what do you think the future of the children will be even after they graduate from the school? If you compare the system whereby discipline, whereby obedience, whereby tolerance is even practiced right in the school, it goes and imbibe in the children and nurture them to start them towards their future. What do you think this kind of behavior is going to brew for the future kids?
I had this conversation earlier today, Chief, with a young man. We were talking about the dress and how people respond to the children in their dress, and legitimately so. One of the things I think is that we've got to take the emphasis off of looks. We've got to stop talking about how the children dress, how they look. We've got to put emphasis on this right here. I'm going to venture out here and say that the mindset about the dress of the children and all of that is something that's germane to, and I can only talk about my own, to black people. I've seen kids go to Harvard with purple hair. I've seen kids in high schools in the suburbs walking around with their pants torn on one side and sewed up on the other side. But for some reason, in our community, we have this thing where we've got to focus on looks, on superficial things. That child walking around with his pants hanging down could be an A student, could be the next president of the United States. Eventually, he'll pull his pants up. It's a lot of things that we focus on that we shouldn't be. I mean, there's even this thing about our kids. Our kids are told, "Oh, you shouldn't dread your hair." I'm sorry, that's the wrong word. Dread. Oof, forgive me. Locks. Children shouldn't have locks. That's ridiculous. Why should he or she not be able to wear their hair the way that they want to? Only because we in the community continue to put our children down or focus on their dress. Let's get into their minds. That's just Synamon saying, okay? I just think that we put too much emphasis on the looks of our children and not enough emphasis on their minds, their talents. Let's engage in conversation. Let's sit down with that boy with his pants hanging down and find out, what do you want to do in the future? Let's talk to that young lady who has that red hair and pink hair. Let's find out what she wants to do with her future. You know, let's talk to those kids who are dressed just provocatively. I mean, Of course not. I'm not condoning any of these things. I'm simply saying that we have to get past that look, that superficial stuff, and let's get into the minds of these children. Let's talk to them. Again, as I said earlier, we don't talk to them. We talk about them. I mean, when was the last time, I'm talking to you, the online community now, when was the last time you actually sat down, and let me be specific, if you're a black male out there, when was the last time you actually sat down and had a conversation with another young black male? Two black women. When was the last time you actually sat down and had a conversation with a young black woman? Other than to tell them something they shouldn't be doing. Let's turn this thing around. Let's accentuate the positive. Let's do what's necessary to make sure that our children are able to have the best chance at life. I want to close this off with a statement from our president. President Obama says, I'll put it to you like this. President Obama has stressed that change comes from the bottom up, not the other way around. It is up to all of us as citizens and advocates to take a more active role in governance at all levels, to make sure our voices are heard from the City Hall to the State House to the halls of Congress to the White House. And I would say to you here in Clayton County, that means getting to the school board meeting, that means getting to the Board of Commissioners meeting, that means being involved in our schools. Until next week, Synamon says, what do you say? Thank you.
Listen, you really do seem to think that you can just do anything you wanna do. You're protecting us from crime, but who's protecting us from you? Yeah. 24-hour patrol on the block never stops the drugs from coming in, yeah. It kinda makes me wonder sometimes just who's really delivering. Oh, yeah. That's always harassing me and asking me for my ID, but I ain't done nothing, so you ain't seeing nothing. No, might pack me a bag of Buddha, but I ain't the high school shooter. I'm sure you got bigger fish to fry. Crooked cop, leave me alone. Go find someone else to run your game on. Oh yeah, that's my car. Tell bro, watching my spot. If you don't live here, then you don't belong in my neighborhood. No. Crooked cop, leave me alone and go find someone else to run your game on. Oh, yeah. My guitar. Yeah. Go and tell bro, watching in my spot.
Look, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why you singling me out. Is this what you do everywhere? Do you do this in Buckhead?
You don't belong in my neighborhood. No, no, no. Your royal order of fraternal brothers is really just a game. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. You like to hang around and beat brothers down, but you don't want to change things. Oh, no. It must be a prerequisite. You gotta be on the power trail.